The American West is a land of myth, cowboys, endless skies, and adventure. But beneath the romance lies a harsher truth. Survival on the edge. The so-called painted ladies, or soiled doves, lived not in glamour, but in daily struggle. Their world was one of danger and desperation, far from the legends. These were real women, facing impossible choices in a society with few options. For many, the frontier was less opportunity and more a trap. To understand their story, we must look past the swinging saloon doors and see the fear in their eyes. The term painted lady was a mask, hiding exhaustion, illness, and emotional scars. They were everywhere in mining camps and cattle towns, yet invisible in history. Their suffering was hidden, their contributions ignored. This is not a story of romance, but of survival. The Wild West was brutal for all, but for these women, it was a war on two fronts, the land and society itself. They battled the harshness of the frontier and the cruelty of those who used and discarded them. These were not fallen women. They were pushed to the brink. Their endurance was a testament to human strength against overwhelming odds. We must set aside fiction and face the hard facts of their existence. The painted ladies were part of the landscape, but also its ghosts. Their story is a stark chronicle of survival, not legend. They endured, if only for a short time, and in their endurance they revealed the true cost of the West. Why did women become painted ladies? For most, there was no real choice. The path to prostitution was paved with desperation and loss. Many arrived in the West seeking a better life, only to find tragedy or poverty. Widows, immigrants, and single women found respectable work scarce and poorly paid. A laundress might earn a few dollars a week. A prostitute could earn that in a night. When faced with starvation, the grim arithmetic was clear. False promises lured many. Procurers offered jobs as dancers or waitresses, but delivered them into debt and isolation. Once trapped, the only way to survive was the brothel. This was not a moral failing, but a societal one. Victorian values put women on a pedestal, but if they fell, there was no safety net. Divorce, abandonment, or assault could ruin a woman's reputation, closing all doors to normal work. Respectable society shunned them, leaving prostitution as the only option. The decision was made with a heavy heart, born of hunger and hopelessness. The West promised opportunity, but for many women it delivered only hardship. Their stories are not about choice, but about survival in a world with no mercy. The painted ladies were not outlaws. They were survivors. Their lives were shaped by forces beyond their control. They did what they had to do to live, and for that they paid a steep price. Not all painted ladies lived the same life. There was a strict hierarchy. At the top were parlor houses, run by powerful madams, offering a thin veneer of luxury and protection. Women here had private rooms, fine clothes, and elite clients, but little freedom. Most of their earnings went to the madam. They were trapped in a gilded cage. Below were the saloons and dance halls, louder, rougher, and more dangerous. Women worked as dance partners, selling drinks and themselves, with little protection from violence. At the bottom were the cribs, tiny shacks in the red light district. Here, women worked alone, keeping what they earned but facing the greatest risks. No protection, no support, just a bed, a wash basin, and constant fear. The hierarchy determined everything: safety, income, and survival. Even in the best houses, disease and unwanted pregnancy were constant threats. The further down the ladder, the harsher the reality. Independence in the cribs meant vulnerability to violence and poverty. The painted ladies' world was a ladder few climbed and most fell. Their lives were shaped by where they stood on it. For many, the bottom was just one bad night away, and at every level the risks were deadly. The greatest threat wasn't gunfights, it was disease. Syphilis and gonorrhea were rampant, incurable, and deadly. Cures were worse than the illness, causing lasting harm. Every client was a gamble with life. Violence was constant. Beatings, robbery, and assault were routine. The law offered no protection. A prostitute's word meant nothing. Pregnancy was a catastrophe, ending a woman's ability to earn. Illegal abortions were dangerous and often fatal. Carrying a child to term meant risking both lives with little hope for the future. Many abandoned babies out of desperation. Addiction to alcohol or opiates was common, a brief escape from misery. Social exile and shame deepened the emotional toll. The cycle of illness, violence, and despair was nearly unbreakable. Their lives were a relentless struggle to endure the unendurable. Few found a way out. Most simply survived day by day. The Wild West towns were built on hypocrisy. Painted ladies were shunned yet vital to the economy. Their presence kept men and their money in town. Brothels, saloons, and stores thrived because of them. Town officials condemned prostitution publicly, but taxed and licensed it privately. The revenue funded sheriffs, schools, and streets. The very infrastructure of civilized towns was built on their trade. Yet the women had no rights, no vote, no property, no legal protection. They paid taxes but lived in squalor, denied dignity. The system exploited them, extracting profit while offering nothing in return. When reformers tried to shut down red-light districts, businessmen protested. They knew the economy depended on the women's presence. So a cynical balance was maintained, profit from the margins but never accept them. The painted ladies were the silent partners in building the West. Their bodies and money built a society that refused to acknowledge them. The life of a frontier prostitute was brutally short. Youth and beauty faded quickly under disease, violence, and hardship. A few years of earning led to a long decline. As women aged, they slid down the hierarchy, from parlor house to saloon to crib. The end was often grim, death from illness, suicide, or poverty. Some ended up in poorhouses, others as brothel maids or laundresses. Most were buried in unmarked graves, their stories lost. They were essential to the town's prosperity, but erased from its history. The vibrant woman in the saloon became a nameless statistic. Their end was as harsh and lonely as their lives. No retirement, no recognition, just a forgotten mound of dirt. Their brief, hard lives were quickly forgotten. Yet they shaped the West in ways history rarely admits. The Wild West era ended as boomtowns changed. Railroads brought families and reform, and towns sought to erase their red-light past. Brothels and saloons were closed, and the painted ladies forced out or underground. The world they knew vanished, but the stigma remained. Respectable societies still shunned them. Doors to normal life stayed closed. Driven underground, prostitution became even more dangerous. The small measure of community and protection was lost. Madams who once offered safety disappeared. The women were left isolated and vulnerable. Red-light districts became ghost towns within towns. The women scattered, many vanishing from history. They had outlived their usefulness to the forces of expansion. The society they helped build discarded them, erasing their role from memory. The story of the painted ladies is not romance, it's a vital chapter of the West. They were survivors, not sinners, forced into impossible choices. Their lives reveal the true cost of building the frontier. Their legacy is in the buildings they funded and the graves where they lie. Remembering them means facing the hypocrisy at the heart of the West. They were mothers, daughters, and sisters. Complex, human, and resilient. Their struggle was for the right to exist. They endured violence, disease, and exile. Their strength is a testament to the human spirit. Their echoes remain in ghost towns and forgotten archives. History is written not just by the powerful, but by those pushed to the margins. The painted ladies were at the center of the West story. Their lives show us the true price of a new world, and why we must never forget them.